So we began the first session by talking about the anatomy of growth, and sadly we couldn't finish it. So what I'm going to try to do very quickly is we still won't be able to finish up on that, but let's try and bring some level of closure. Is that okay? Bring some level of closure on that, and then we proceed to what the second session should be about, which is titled The Business Sense. So we established before now that growth is change. We established before now that growth is change, but change is not always growth. To grow, you must change, you must accept change. But that you are changing does not mean that you are growing. So it's important to understand the cycle, the anatomy, the structuring of growth. And like most living things on earth, like we're taught in biology, there is a circle. For those of you who know English, you say one is circle, one is cycle. Good. So just follow on, guys. So to every living thing on earth, there is usually a cycle. Yes, that's what I'm referring to. The one that begins CY, right? Yes. The cycle of growth. There is a cycle. There is a cycle. And this cycle is usually in a loop form. It's usually in a loop form. But there are different loops along different levels. But same concepts. So in the cycle of growth, there are 4 stages. So write down very quickly. Number 1, survival. Number 2, adapting or adapt. Number 3, thrive. Number 4, outgrow. The cycle of growth impacts on everything. You will see the same cycle repeating itself as a child grows through school. You will see it in your home. You will see it as you pursue purpose. This cycle keeps repeating itself. And the first of the cycle is survival. Survival is a phase of struggle. What's a struggle? That's a very nice word for very religious people. Because everything that we are wired for is counter struggle. But you can't attain growth at a certain level without struggling. You give birth to a child, and something as basic as crawling, the child is to struggle. Many attempts. Before crawling, there's a phase. What do you call it? The one that is rough stomach on the ground. But there's a struggle. And give the child a few weeks, he or she becomes a master of crawling. And while he or she is trying to bask in the victory of crawling, a new demand comes. The demand to walk. When he begins walking again, what's happening? Struggle. The reason why things are failing is that we are trying to eliminate that struggle factor. Survival is a phase where small things are big. When you leave a man in the wilderness of survival, even a worm is a delicacy. Am I correct? You know, you can choose what to eat when you have what to eat.
When you are in a place that there is no food, that while you are asleep, other animals are awake. To wake up in the morning is truly a miracle. Because you are surviving. And your business and your marriage will go through survival phase. That it will be a miracle that your business survives one more month. It will be a profound victory that your business makes 1,000 naira. Because in survival, small is big. In survival, projections are minimal. You are not thinking about 2 weeks from now or 2 years from now. You just want to make it till tomorrow. It is important to project, but to get there, you must survive. Come on, say survival. Survival is also that phase of fear. See, there's certain concepts that we teach that scares me. Number one, we teach against pain. We teach against fear. Pain is a proof of life. So constant that in the biology of a woman at birth, we have what they call labor. If you didn't feel pain, fever would have killed you. If you didn't feel pain, malaria would have killed you. The only thing that saved you was not the anti-malaria drug. It was the fever that you felt that made you take the drug. You need pain to survive. A child does not put his hand on fire because it burnt him the first time. Not because he's afraid of the color. It's you and I that know that fire is hot. As far as a child is concerned, it's an orange, beautiful thing that moves. Like Isaac said, at that point it is information. It is at the encounter of fire. That the fear of fire, that is the root of all wisdom, comes on the child. Almost a fear. You are daring all kinds of things because you don't have fear. You need fear. I've had business opportunities that I didn't dare because I was afraid. That fear saved my life. My friends went into it and they crashed. There is where to fear. When dare everything, dare it, fearless. I have fear. A prudent man sees danger from afar and hides himself. I need fear. Leave it. Leave it. Why are you wearing seat belts? Come on, say survivor. But this is a problem. Many of you have been surviving. That's all you have been. And when we ask you, oh boy, how you doing? I say, God will just survive. Last 8 years, I just survived. 3 years ago, I just survived. 2 months ago, there's a problem with your life. Because it's meant to be a phase. Like I shared with you guys in Value Summit, every phase is for a season. If every phase of struggle goes beyond the season, it is your fault. Survival doesn't always happen when you are small. I'm not supposed to say this matter. See, I'm currently, let me explain. Just follow me carefully, please, patiently. I am presently in a survival state. Because as at last year, in the circle of my growth, I had come to a phase of outgrowth. Now, in GSS 1, when you entered the first term, you were surviving. By second term, you were adapting and maybe thriving. By the end of third term, you are wired to have outgrown that class. Do you agree with me? The moment you enter GSS 2, another survival must start. The confidence of GSS 1 can sustain you in GSS 2. You notice that first day in class, that's, when they're even choosing table to sit down, you are afraid of the unknown. Because you are in survival. You finish scrolling. You've done great. Your parents just bought you a toy. While you are busy trying to adapt and thrive with your toy, the stage for walking comes. You enter walking. You start surviving again. But before you land at that survival, you should have adapted, thrived, and outgrown. But survival will repeat itself. If you are surviving when you should be adapting, there's a problem. If you are adapting when you should be thriving, it's a problem. If you are thriving when you have outgrown, you are cursed. Come on, say survive. The number 2 phase, so survival is a phase of struggling. Number 2 is adapting. Number 2 is a phase of stability. Success at any level begins with adaptation. Come on, say adapt. We established in the first session that the world is changing. Nothing, including yourself, remains the same. So the real concept of success is married to adapting. That is all it is. Prince adapted to his reality. Ochudo adapted to her reality. Her adaptation is different from mine. Mine is subject to the changes I see. Hers is subject to her changes. But the common denominator is that we must all adapt. Many of you cannot survive in Moscow. Do you know why? Because of lack of adaptation. Does not mean that Moscow is bad. For those who have adapted, they are thriving. A sailor is trained to adapt to the tides. However predictable that the sea can become, there are storms you can never plan for. You navigate it by adaptation. So when you begin a business as an entrepreneur, when you have learned how to struggle and survive, you must learn when to shift to adapting. To adapt is not to struggle. A man who is surviving in the desert or in the wilderness will glorify a small piece of worm. After 3 months in that space, he should be able to catch a rat. Do you understand? Then he should be able to set a trap for a monkey. See, at that point, he's already adapting. Because he will tell you that actually every 5 a.m. in the morning, a rat passes here. But see, there was a time that all he cared about was getting a small worm to eat. And at that point, he was not projecting, but now he can project. Because he can tell that every 6 a.m., a small cat follows here. So I'm going to track it for the next 2 weeks while I set my trap. Say adapt. Survival is very relevant. But if at every phase of your life you are trying to stay alive, maybe something is wrong with either what you are doing or where you are doing it. Because at some point, you should be able to graduate to adapting. And number 3, you thrive. Thriving is a place where you excel. At this level, as impressive as my life may be, as impressive as Prince's life may be, we are thriving now. People know our name now. At this level, Ape is doing great. I'm thriving. And there's nothing wrong with that. I can't feel bad for driving. I can't eat worms when I drive. I can't even eat a rat when I'm driving. That is for survival. That is for adapting. Now I need chicken. Preferred roasted. A bit of spice. And if possible, in a 5-star hotel. Because I'm excelling. The place of excelling is where you reward yourself. You've got to reward yourself. The place of thriving is where you live. When you survive, you struggle. When you adapt, you work. When you thrive, you live. It's possible that when you are adapting, you couldn't spend time with your children, not when you are thriving. Because when you are thriving, you are excelling. Things are on autopilot, like what Prince said. You can afford not to go to work, and everything will go just fine. Do you know that phrase? You can take a trip abroad for 2 weeks and just chill because you are thriving. This is the danger. Many of you have thrived your way into failure. Because when you thrive long enough, you outgrow. I get it now. That's why even in your school, there's a calendar. That by the third term, you must leave GSS 1. You see, many of you are campaigning to remain in GSS 1 because you think you are very good at GSS 1. Oh, you didn't get it. You see, you are convincing your teacher that you don't understand. The best time of my life was GSS 1. I can't live here. I die here. Primary 1, I failed. Primary 2, I failed. Primary 3, I failed. In my GSS 1, that's the best time of my life. I'm not going anywhere. Is that growth? But that's what you're doing. You have built a tabernacle, a mansion, a castle in the place of your thriving. And you don't want to move. This is my best place. No. Open a branch in Lagos. No. Abuja is doing too well. I don't need Lagos. And then you are there. Once a champion, then suddenly you go to the negative obscurity. You know, there are different kinds of obscurity. There's growth obscurity, there's uselessness obscurity. Where you have no consequence. So when you thrive, be careful because the time is going to come when you outgrow. So don't be too comfortable. Watch the wins. When you have made all your first 10 million, you see, from when you were 12 years old to when you were 18, you were praying for 10 million. Now the 10 million has come. Is that where your life ends? At some point, the 10 million becomes your survival money. Hi! A point should come that what became a thriving factor becomes a survival factor. Dangote is broke with 10 billion. Give Dangote 10 billion naira today, he's a broke man. Because your 10 billion is not his 10 billion. 10 billion is your thriving phase. 10 billion is his survival phase. So now he's trying to build a refinery and he sells his sugar company. Because now he's trying to build a refinery that will cost him $13 billion. Say outgrow. Hi. Now, when you survive, I said small is big. When you outgrow, big is small. There was a time in your life that it was a big deal to buy a Corolla 2010 model, 2 million. It was a big deal. We came to your house. We drank wine. We were happy for you. Put all kinds of pictures on Facebook. Remember that time? Yes. 8 years after, you are still posting a picture of your Corolla. 8 years after, at that point, you have become an insult. Because at growing phase, big becomes small. And when you outgrow and you get into that phase, you are going back to survival. My wife and I were speaking about this some nights ago and just talking about some investments that we've been doing. And she said that, babe, are you sure that, because she could say that I was a bit stressed. Are you sure that we're not maybe doing too much? I said, no, we're surviving. The last year, the moment we did this project, bam, there's a project we did last year, worth tens of millions. I said, at that point, we outgrew. I said, if I stay too long basking in that victory, I said, there's problem. There's problem. So now I'm in a new survival phase of my life. I am afraid. I'm telling you now. Yes, post it. Hashtag #afraid. Because I'm stepping into new territories. Before 100 million was a breakthrough. Today, it can't start what we have in view. You know what I'm saying? He cannot start it. That's what I'm saying to you. You can't start it. But let it finish. And I know it. It's you that is clapping for me. I am on my knees at home. I'm thinking of tomorrow. I'm thinking of how to survive till tomorrow morning. And it's not lack of contentment. It's survivor. It's survivor. Young men have become suddenly old because they are basking in yesterday's victory. Old victory. Old victory. See, I am a grateful man. Maybe most grateful in this room. But I don't impress myself. I'm telling you. Because I'm true to myself about my seasons. You cannot convince me to survive when I should be thriving. No, you can't convince me. I went to a country I won't mention, so that I will not reveal what it was. I went to a country sometime last year for an event to speak there. And I said to the people, I said, don't bother about my flights. I'll take care of my flights. And I went there. And I put myself literally in the best hotel in that country. Literally. The cost of my room could have funded the events for 5 days. No apology. I was there alone. Men like us who don't drink alcohol, we need other things to be happy. Like a good hotel room. Best hotel, ocean view. No hindrance. Ocean direct. The cost per night can begin a business for you now. Cost per night. I won't go back there again this year. No. If you give me 10,000 naira now, I will thank you. I promise you. Because the things we have to do, I can't go there this year. In the next 1 week, my wife and I are going traveling again abroad. I'm staying in a cheaper hotel. It's probably the best room in the hotel, but it's a cheaper hotel. Because I'm surviving now. And I know it. And I know it. People that help me buy cars send me a list of cars because I want to buy a car this year. I said to them, years ago, I buy a car of 10 million easily. Easily! And I told them this year, I said, any car that has T in front of it, I don't want. Millions by God's mercies. But car will not be on that list. Not now. No. No. The car I drove yesterday, it cost 2 million. Sienna. Old Sienna. That's what I drove yesterday. Happy man. There's a point that you come to when you hear when you see a video of Warren Buffett is driving one small Chevrolet, you are wondering, it's not humility. He has left there. If that's it. Come on, say, I'll grow. Oh, man. Ignorance is dangerous. Laziness is suicidal. A comfort zone is a curse. It's a curse. I'm telling you guys. And it's a bigger vulnerability now because of social media. So, if Ochudo puts a picture out there in South Africa, and I put my picture out there in London, I think I'm bigger than you. Do you understand? And then I'm happy with myself that I went to London. I thought London is not a place. It's not in now. Animal place or thing. It's not in now. And then because you say, but you went to London, in my mind, I have arrived. I have 2 million in my account. I use 1.8 to go to London. Is that not foolishness? Then with 15 pictures per day on Instagram. Foolishness. They have done you from the village. So let's try and leave this place now. Let's talk a little bit on business sense. Is that okay? Is that okay? I'm going to try to rush through this because of time. I was really hoping we could do some stuff on structure, but I'm in time. Can I have better volume on the feedback, please? So there's a guy here. This club 10 now. Call. Isioma, Dr. Isioma, where are you? Come. Let me tell you a story about this guy. He's a medical. What do you guys call yourself? He's in medical school. Now, in 2016, we went to Uni Abuja. I had a very big summit there. I had a lot of people there. And in that summit, as always, we had a grant scheme that we roll out. And he was one of the winners. He was the first runner-up, am I correct? Second runner-up. Yeah, so we gave you how much? 50,000 that time. So this was in 2016 or 2015. I'm not sure now. So when we then the guy who won 100,000, and the same guy happened to be at the last 10 summit, and he was at the last 10 summit. And if you recall, at the last 10 summit we did add and multiply, and then my lecture was, consumers versus producers. And we're saying that consumers eat and producers eat, but consumers eat more than they produce. And then I remember I said something about don't eat what should be yielding. So he came to me after the summit and said that he's so glad he came. And at the same time, he was so ashamed that he came. That he was more ashamed because the guy who won the 100 grand is his friend. Until today, 3 or 4 years after, still owns the business for which he invested the 100K in. Because that's the whole idea. You write a proposal, we fund it, and then you go about it. And that when he got his own 50,000 naira 4 years ago, what did you buy? Phone. He took the money. How much was the phone?
27,000.
He took half of his capital to buy a phone. That's what they worked out the story. And then after less than 1 week, what happened? It's a business sense. In that same summit, we had a grant for 100,000, and he was a winner. 4 years after, he won 100,000 again. Did you buy a new phone this time? This guy is currently writing his exams right now, 400 level, after 1 year. 400 level has been like 1 year plus, right? Confidence is here too. She's also in the same class. And he had to come. They are writing exams right now. He said he had to come. I was trying to convince him, don't come. They had to come. Please say, God bless you. The first business sense: never eat what should be yielding. Never eat what should be yielding. But how do you know what should be yielding? How do you know? So write this down. Projects. Slash projects. Projects slash projects. Number 2, profits. Number 3, prospects and possibilities. Number 4, purpose. I'm going to have to run through this very fast. The problems that we have many times is that we focus more on profiting than projects. I'll say that again. The problem that we have many times is that we focus more on profiting than projects. But as important as it is to have projects, more important than that is to be able to project. That makes sense? So, a project could be that you want to start a business. But your motivation could be, I just want to make money. And that motivation is not enough to sustain the business. You can't build a structure around that motivation. The strength of your structure is resident in your projection. If you want to make money, you can make money one day, and then what? So when I want to start any business, I begin with projection. And then based on my projections, I begin to define projects that can fit into my projections. And then when I define the projects that fit into my projections, I begin to define the kind of profiting and when to profit and what to profit. Because profiting is not always in money. There's some projects that I project that my profiting is people. There are some projects that I project that my profiting is cash. There are some projects that I project that my profiting is goodwill. There are some projects that I project that my profiting is in referencing. Because sometimes the recipient of the project cannot afford to give me what I want, but can refer me to a person that has what I want, and many times I know them. So if you don't know that, you keep saying that people are using you. Even that is arguable. It's okay to be used. We'll talk about that here. So I project a project before I define the profits. Now, when I have defined the profit I am targeting, then I come into the realm and the dimension of prospects and other possibilities, because the profiting must have an end. If profiting is your end, then you are ended, though. You are finished. Every profiting must have an end that leads beyond the profits. And that's where possibilities come. So I was speaking to my wife again, she was trying to learn some new skills. I said, babe, you've got to be careful how many skills you acquire. Sometimes you have not exhausted the possibilities in the skills you have. You want to make sure that at every phase of your life and at every phase of your skill, you are exploring every possibility. So as an architect, I have a furniture company because it's a possibility in the field where I belong. And there are some years that I make more money from furniture than I do from construction. Possibilities. I was with a client some days ago, and she was telling me certain deep things about herself, because sometimes I can't just be your architect. It's too small to be. It's too small to be. This woman now, because of the things that we have become to her that is beyond architecture, said to me that when you start building your real estate, I have like 5 buyers on ground for you now. Is it because I gave her a good house? No. It is the possibilities behind the profiting. Before we began the first branch of Letoha, so I say first intentionally because it's the only one for now, there is a possibility mapping. That is why Facebook was okay to own Facebook for 7 years without profits. It's a possibility he was saying. When they tell you that there was no profit, there was profit, but it wasn't what they projected. You see, it's when you have not made money that you think your happiness is in money. Any man that says that bad has not made money. And the confidence with which you are hearing Prince talk, it's not money, because he knows he has found a space in purpose. He has found it. Listen, you can be a pilot, you can't intimidate this guy. You cannot. Possibilities. Don't shortchange yourself. That is why you need to understand the circle of growth. Otherwise, you keep outgrowing without knowing. You keep outgrowing without knowing. Because you took profits before projection. And when you built your projects, there was no prospect of possibilities. And then now that you found the possibilities, you have forgotten purpose. So like I say, the place of purpose is where you feel full. So we call it fulfillment. Anything that you're doing that you feel empty, watch it. See, because when you find purpose, even when you are surviving, you still feel full. Have you noticed? Ask Bashir, he will tell you. Did you suffer? Yes. He couldn't buy a bag of water. He was doing prison foundation. Not this kind of foundation you are doing today. Your foundation is in Abuja, Central area. Lagos, VI. That's not foundation, no. That one is roofing. But if you see him, bash, energy, because he feels full. Any man that you are with, should I go there? That makes you always feel small. Especially in a bad way. Sister, disappear. Disappear. Now we've talked about the circle of growth. Let me quickly touch on the rhythm of growth. Rhythm of growth. There are 3 of them. Efforts, methods, and results. The problem is that many of you want the results first. That's the problem. So when you hear about Akochuto and Prince, all you're seeing is the results. Because that's what the world sees. We are always focusing on what? The results. But before you get to the results, it begins with efforts. It's a place that you walk until it works. Come on, say efforts. The easiest way to become a failure is to eliminate efforts. As long as there's efforts, you cannot be a failure. You may fail, but you will never be a failure. Because failing has never made anybody a failure. But when you stop trying, then you are a confirmed failure. So it begins with efforts. But from efforts, you get into methods. There's a way that things works. That's why you're here. You know why you're here? Because you are here because your efforts is not giving you results. If you lack, somebody asks about structure. This is it. A method. Every billionaire has a method. They have a method. And like Prince said, if you have a mentor that has a method, just if you follow the method, it's not drop the anointing bottle. Follow the method. For once. But there's also a pressure for results. I'm having these three on the screen because there's a pressure for results, and it's a dangerous pressure. The pressure for results trivializes efforts. And of all the things that you may have heard, what will stay in your mind is that Prince said, I work less, I make more money. Because you just want results. Because there's a pressure for results. Your mother wants to see results. Your father wants to see results. Your friends are eager for results. But you need to know the method. And method is tedious and slow. I don't know if you want speed here. Speed. Be honest now. This is Club 10. You want speed? What is speed? What is speed? Is distance covered in time. Is that not speed? Where did you read that speed is fast? Because when we say, I want speed in my life, what we say is I want it fast. And he said that if you walk alone, you get there fast. If you walk with people, you get far. Speed is not fast. Speed is measurable distance covered within specific time. That's why your projection is important. If I want to build my house in 2 years, that is, I've set the speed. Distance covered is a house. Time is 2 years. If you set your own time in 1 year and you build your house in 3 years, you have failed. If I set my own time in 2 years and I build in 1 year and 8 months, I've over-succeeded by my projections. Because I projected the project before I defined my profits. Wow. So there's several things I need to say, but I can't say. I was going to talk to you about the business common sense, the sense of consequence, the sense of correction, the sense of continuity. But we don't have the time for that. So let me go right to the heart of certain matters. And let me define entrepreneurship. The Apple Harrison version. Is that okay? So I know we've talked a lot about growth. Let me use the last 14 minutes to talk about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is trading value for profits by the strategic management of resources, risk, and rewards. Entrepreneurship is trading what? And how did Ochido define value? Use usefulness of a thing. Come on, say use. So entrepreneurship is a trading of use for profits. Now, so in this definition, there are 5 items. Can we say them now? Number 1 item is trade. Number 2 item is value. Number 3 item is profit. Number 4 item, which I'm going to stretch on strongly, is management. Number 5 item is resources. 6 is risk. 7 is rewards. Life is a business. We all agree. Everybody who is alive is in the business of living. So, the concept of business is not for a specific group of persons. Because everybody is in the business of life. Because everything that you are is an outcome of what you are selling and what you are buying every day. How you talk, how you dress, where you go to, what you eat, you are selling and you are buying a future, period. So, trading is not just the act of exchange. Trading is the act of intentional exchange. Whenever you are in a trade, you are intentionally making exchanges. And you don't just exchange anything, you must exchange value. So it simply means that whatever you're exchanging must have use. And then that use must be able to afford you profiting. If you're not profiting in what you are doing, you're not in business. You are not an entrepreneur until you are profiting. You must profit. And the concept of profiting, like I said, goes beyond money. You must learn how to profit in relationships, in connections, in networking, in creating platforms and possibilities. You must be a master of profiting. Now, to achieve that, we come to management. This is very key. So I'm going to stay here for a few minutes. Management is your ability to regulate use. Come on, write that down. Management is your ability to regulate use. And to optimize advantages. So the key word there for me is the regulation of use. Not just use. Having been here, you should understand the importance of use. Am I correct? But the real skill comes in your ability to regulate the use. The way a car performs is by the same concept. The way a plane flies is by the same concept. The way couples thrive is by the same concept. The way you raise your children is by this same, is a regulation of use. And it's not just your ability to use things, it's your ability to use people. And we make it sound like a bad thing. You are suffering because you have failed to use people. People are in your life not for WhatsApp chats. Yes. People are in your life to be used. Everybody on the work team of Clock 10, I'm using them. They are here, they are hearing me. I'm using them. It's their choice to determine how to use me. Yeah. When you invite me to speak at a meeting, you may be using me. It's my decision to find how to use you when I get there. Yes. Come on, say use. When you can't handle the regulation of use, it becomes abuse. When you say child abuse, is because there is a lack of the knowing on how to regulate use. And when you use people, you need to also position yourself to be used. Even when they don't have use for you, you must make yourself visible for use. And that has been the story of my life. I'm not so much, I promise you. Forget the kaftan. I'm not so much. But every chance I get, I position myself to be used. I get so used that I end up becoming important. Not always by my worth, but by my availability and visibility. There are some things that are important to you, but they are still very cheap. But they have built their relevance in your life because of how much you use them. You say, I cannot go anywhere without my phone. It's by use, not by color. So it's important to build a generation of leaders, but equally it's important to build a generation of managers. Now, to be an entrepreneur, you must manage risk, resources, and rewards. I can't talk about resources and rewards here, but let me talk about risk. So can we talk about risk? I have 6 minutes now. Risk management is your ability to identify, to analyze, to control, to eliminate, and to minimize threats to your ideas, your business, or your profits. And for the next level of your growth, you must become a risk manager. Many of you here have delved into things that the only thing you saw was the possibilities of your prospects. But you didn't take time to educate yourself of the risk of that prospect. So you must be skilled at risk management. And when you manage risk, you must analyze it. How do you analyze risk? By the impact and the possibility of the risk. So when you call me with a business plan, I check the impact of the idea and the possibility of the threats in that prospect. So, I bet invest 1 million naira in farming. It's a good idea. But I must analyze the risk. To do that, I check the possibility of the business failing. What are the threats to this business? I check them. 1, 2, 3. Number 2 question is, what's the impact of these threats on the business? Sometimes the possibilities of the threats are high, but the impact is small. That's a good risk. If the possibility of the risk is very high, but the impact of the risk is very small, it's a good risk. But if the possibilities of the threats are high, and the impacts of the threats are high, it's a bad risk. Run. There are certain risks that you cannot control. The only thing to do is to eliminate it. And the only way to do that is to run. There's no other way. Don't think about it, just leave it. Sometimes the possibilities are very small, but the impact of it can be very high. Be careful. As I bring this to a close, the end does not justify the means. If I had the time to talk about the sense of consequence, I would have touched it there. The end
does not justify the means. The truth is, the means justifies the end. And as you grow in your journey as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, respect the means. Respect the means. Because the means is where the future of your end is. When you want to build a structure, you must focus on the means. It's because we focus on the end too quickly that we don't wait long enough to build a system and a structure, a method to sustain that end. So you have 100 years business in America and you barely have a 10-year business in Nigeria because of lack of structure. With these few points of mine, I hope you are convinced. Yeah. Have you learned something at all?